This was a little odd. I'm used to seeing a lot more people in here, but I think we'll still have a good time, and you'll have a lot of stuff that you can share with everybody else that you heard first here that they won't get to hear until closing ceremonies. I'm gonna start off with the obvious question for our virtual people. Yes, we plan to be hybrid next year. That's always a question we get, but we do plan to do that. We're still trying to figure out how to make virtual work. So it may be evolving, but we do want to make virtual a permanent part of BrickCon. The announcement, I've kind of hinted at this at a couple of general sessions. I'm currently, let me introduce myself, Stephen Walker. I'm currently Executive Director of BrickCon, technically BrickCon LLC. But I'm also President of the BrickCon Foundation. And BrickCon LLC, which runs BrickCon today, will cease to exist at the end of this year, and the BrickCon Foundation will take over. BrickCon Foundation is actually a full-blown 501c3 charity. We're just waiting for our final paperwork from the IRS. What that means to you should be absolutely nothing. BrickCon will still exist as we see it today. It just changes how we operate, allows us to do quite a bit of cost savings, and access to a bunch of resources, tools, and all types of stuff that we currently either don't have access to or don't want to pay for. And with that savings means we can probably do more stuff for you guys. Sure, I think that's the big announcement, is that we're becoming a charity. Any questions on that? We can get started. Go ahead, Steve. You have to, yeah, and we ask you to come up to the microphone because the virtual people can't hear you otherwise. Everybody in the room can, but you know, we have people on virtual.
So as a charity, typically 501c3s target something or several somethings. Is there a specific something, or is it very open-ended?
It is a specific something, and that's a good question. I should have added that to it. As a charity, the BrickCon Foundation's focus is to promote the art and educational and engineering capabilities of the use of Lego. And so we will, you know, as I mentioned last night, that we are a backer of Swerve Robotics. We actually help fund a good chunk of their budget every year. And in turn, they man our Kid Brick. We want to be able to grow that. Yesterday morning, we had First Washington. First Washington is the organization of which Swerve is a part of that promotes the robotics for the state of Washington. And they're also a charity. And so that's our way to help First Robotics. We gave them a place. They used to be using, until this year, they used high school gymnasiums, which they got for pretty cheap as well. But it's not quite as nice and doesn't have the tech capabilities that we have here. And so they've already brainstorming on ways to how to improve next year based on what they did this year that they would only get if they were here. And so, yeah, we want to help continue that relationship with Swerve and First Robotics. And right now, that's our first goal. There may be others as time goes on that we want to get involved with, but that's where we're starting. And then this exhibition is an art show, right? We're encouraging kids to expand their minds on what they can do with what they see as their toy at home and what we see as an art form. So we want to help push that. And even the parents. We're getting, I saw a lot of single dad, well, I don't know if they're single dads, single males coming in with tickets or with a ticket because this is what they wanted to see. We're expanding their minds on what they could do, or potentially even, maybe get them to join CLUG and expand into the social aspects of all this. So yes, that is our goal, is to expand that art, educate the kids on what they can do with what they have at home, and encourage them to think in that STEAM manner. So yes, good question. Any other questions on the foundation, the new foundation aspect? Dan, did I miss anything? Okay, I didn't miss anything. All right, so the second topic, and I wish there was a specific person in the audience, but I think he's actually down signing at the Lego Masters thing going on in about 20 minutes. We've been having a lot of questions about why we don't allow QR codes at the mock tables. And I was hoping to have a few more people. We could have a kind of a discussion here. We aren't going to make any decisions here, but just have that discussion. But both sides need to understand what the other side wants. Now, I actually understand both sides. The hard part is getting why we've made the decision we've made at this time. And that is, we are very protective of our vendors, potentially more so than many of the other cons out there. And so they pay a hefty premium to get to vend at BrickCon. And so if we see a QR code, we don't know if that QR code goes to a self-promotion site, Facebook page, whatnot, or is it going to an Etsy store, an eBay store, or a Bricklink store to try to sell stuff. And we don't have the time to check everything. There's no way we have the time to check everything. And we'll get 1,000 mock registrations, and if they had it in their description, I don't have a way to check it. And yes, there probably could be an automated way. I don't want to spend the money to automate it. And so we've had people trying to sell stuff from the display tables who weren't vendors. And at that point, we had to set the policy of, no, we will not accept those at the display tables. But things have changed. Things are evolving. And that evolution is a whole generation that wants to do influencers, wants to promote what they've built, and that type of thing. And even though they may not have missed that piece of Robin's talk, that you should be building for you, not building for everybody else, we have to accept that they're going to still build for everybody else, and that they want to be an influencer in the market or want to promote what their builds are. And so how do we create a balance? And I have some ideas, but we don't have a solution. And so we want to hold that conversation, and it may end up at Discord. It may be that we set up a separate Zoom session to get the people that want to be involved in that discussion to partake. And I'm willing to host that. That is a discussion I do want to have. I want to be able to have people feel comfortable in what they're presenting on their table. Now, the other piece that I have in that sense is our tables already look crowded with all the mock cards. And I really don't want it to look like the LA freeway. And if you've driven through LA, it's a row of billboards. I don't want that look in BrickCon. I want to be able to see a row of mocks, not a row of billboards. And so how do we, again, balance if we get into allowing an influencer to post something like their handle, how do we keep that from looking like a row of billboards when we already have a row of mock cards out there in the first place? So again, that's all part of this balance of keeping it looking like an art show instead of an advertising gallery when we do BrickCon. So let me stop there and see if there's any questions on that particular topic. And nothing online. Anything in the room? Go ahead, Steve.
Questions today.
That's fine.
And this might be more just a topic or throw out for your discussion when you have that, would be whatever you might end up allowing, if you do, should fit on that same card rather than a second piece.
That could be part of the
Maybe
solution.
Maybe as a handle as a description or something, like you say, a spelled out website rather than a QR code, which is more nebulous as to what that QR does.
Websites get a lot harder because if we have to actually look at a website.
Oh, I see. Right. So,
how do we know the difference?
Yeah, but I would submit at least if you could fit something on the card, and then that's the limit. Mm-hmm. That at least doesn't add more billboards. That's my input.
Yep. As an input to that solution, when you fill out your BrickCon survey, we have some general comments. Add that into the survey because otherwise we will probably lose track of it. Right. So add it to the survey when you fill it out. Right. That hey, for the influencer question, here's a suggestion, and add it there. Okay. Good to bring it up here. I'm not saying don't bring it up here. Bring it up here, but make sure you follow up by putting it in the survey so we have it in our records. Morning.
I think in addition to vending from the display table, you also might want to be concerned about adult content on those websites that people are going to with, 10,000 kids around.
Yes, so that's actually the big concern about a website because, yes, that's the part that I didn't bring up, but, yeah, is it family friendly when they go to that website? Right. And that's another piece of it. Most people here are probably just fine, but you never know. And so, yes, that's a very good input, and my proposal that I really want to run with is that they include handles. Handles are a Facebook logo and their hashtag.
Right, something that's Googleable, even if
Right,
you don't remember
but
whether it
not
was
something you
Instagram
can
or
take a picture and
Flickr.
immediately go to.
Right, and my other thought was, I know that printing the booklet costs money, and anything online also costs time mostly, but maybe there's a way, at least for the AFOLs, to like have a directory, like who attended and where you can find, and it's opt-in. I've seen that for non-LEGO cons, where they just have a list of attendees, and if you want to, you get to fill out, find me at this website, or I'll be here, I built this, just to, I don't know, it's a community building thing.
So we in the back of the program, the last 4 pages or so of the program is a list of attendees. But yes, it isn't how do you find that attendee. Now, from the influencer standpoint, we're actually not their target audience. It's the 12,000 people that are coming through the door over 2 days that's their target audience. And so they don't get the program. But it could be a stepping stone to that direction. A great idea. Again, fill that out in your LEGO survey, and then we can capture that so we don't lose it. Though we are recording this, so I technically could go back and watch this, but that spreadsheet will be something that we actually look at first.
I'm going to follow up on that in that if as a AFOL, when we sign up, we put our handle or our whatever it is, that gets carried to the mock card. So they're not putting a different handle, a different web address, so that you could kind of police that. And if something was inappropriate, you could say, sorry, you've just been kicked out.
Yep.
Kind of thing.
Yep. Yeah. Good idea. All right. Lee, go ahead and come up, but hold off on your question just a second. I want to make sure that we give virtual a chance to have a question, and no virtual. All right, go ahead.
It's less of a question, more of just what I've seen so far.
Sure.
And what I've seen is that people either make an engraved brick or a brick of some sort that has where their handle and where to find them. Or I've seen it where it's on the mark card already, so they put it part of their name in some ways. So I think either of those possibilities could be good solutions as well. Very low key, no QR codes or anything.
Right. Yep. Good idea. All right, so all right, so for those that didn't hear that, probably the virtual people, when you register in Sketch, you can actually add a bunch of details to your account in Sketch. And then attendees can at least find that information. So, we keep pushing people to use Sked because that's where our calendar is. That's where you can sign up. You can get reminders. There's all these cool things. But it sounds like there's even more that we can do with Sked. There's a tool that we already have, everybody's already using, that may be able to do the next step of what you guys are doing. Now, being able to extract that into the mock card, that could be a fun challenge for us to figure out. I think it's doable. Sked has a real nice API that we've tapped into for many other things. So yeah, that may be how we get that information is you want your stuff available on your mock card? Well, you have to use Sked. And people seem to be reluctant to do that. But that's where you put your information, and then we extract it. Any other questions along this topic? I'm hearing none. All right, so now we'll just go into the general QA session and let you guys ask whatever you want to ask about whatever we're doing. So this is where you get to help direct it, and I may go on and off. You need to move to the microphone so that the virtual people can hear you. So, yep.
This is probably a stupid question, but where can you get info on when the next BrickCon is and what the themes will be?
Sure. The question on where the next BrickCon is and themes. When, all that.
Where, same
Closing ceremonies. We actually cover that as in closing ceremonies, and I'm going to be silly and not answer that until closing ceremonies.
Okay. It's been a while since I last been to a BrickCon. That's why I'm asking.
Was that the last part?
It's been a while since I last been to a BrickCon.
Oh, okay.
That's why I'm
Yeah.
asking.
So yeah, we cover that in closing ceremonies. Now, the second half of that question is themes. There will be one new theme for next year, but other than that, the general themes will be just the same as it is this year. With castle or with fantasy, sci-fi, town and country, scale model, function, art, history. Did I get them all? I think I got them all. There's, so none of that will change. We're going to add one new theme, and that will cover during closing ceremonies. I know there's still a lot of people that don't like those themes, that want the castle theme, and great. Where do you put Vikings? Where do you put pirates? When I don't, we aren't big enough to have 50 theme coordinators. It doesn't work, and that's a lot of why that's part of why we did what we did. As I went through, and if you go online and watch last year's Q&A, I think we talked about that in detail in last year's Q&A. And if you don't know, we do record a lot of these things, and those that the presenter allows us to replay, we have a YouTube channel. And that YouTube channel actually has all those recorded sessions. And some of it, like some of our award ceremonies, they go back. Hey, Nicole, do we have close to a decade of award ceremonies online? Yeah. So if you want to see past award winners over the last 10, 15 years, they're actually on our YouTube channel. I do have to figure out. I have one award ceremony that's on my YouTube channel. I don't think I figured out how to move to the BrickCon one, but we'll figure that one out. I think it's like 2012 or 2015 or something like that. It's on mine. Yeah, maybe that's all it is. But I haven't looked into it. I know it's on mine. I just haven't looked into it. Good question. Other questions? Come on up. It sounds like we're having technical difficulties with our virtuals. We'll get to them as soon as we get that resolved.
First of all, I want to say thank you to you guys for all the organizing and work you do. I know you do this on a volunteer basis, and you couldn't pay me enough to do your job with all this logistics and anything, so thank you for doing that. Love the new venue. I love the electric shuttle bellhop thing to get us around. The only thing, I found the food choices lacking, and maybe I just don't know where they are, so maybe next year if you guys can consider putting a list together of like close food places, because or did I miss that?
You actually missed it, but we weren't good at publishing where it is.
Okay.
So we actually have a food map, and it is available at the info desk.
Okay.
And on Discord. Now, we know not everybody uses Discord, but we actually do. We distribute a lot of information on Discord, and that happened to be one of them.
Okay.
I think we also distributed a parking map on Discord, because there are various parking lots, not all of them close, though we haven't had a lot of complaints. So getting back to your food, we totally agree with you. The food options are minimal, and part of that is because Bellevue, as a corporate city, it is a very business-centric downtown. They're dead right now. Amazon's building all these buildings you see are all Amazon. There's like 5 buildings that they paid to have constructed. Once they're done, they're moving into 10% of the space. They were supposed to move into all of it. The transit center, which is right across the street, it used to have the city center building, if I got the name correct, which borders that, had all these little weird alcoves built into it that face the transit center. Each one of those alcoves was a restaurant. And it was sometimes simple as a taco place of some sort, or a Subway, or actually it wasn't Subway, it was a better deli than that. But they had all these various little things to cater, and they were designed to cater to the businesses over lunch. And they all went away. So we are waiting for Bellevue to rebuild so we can then take advantages of what they have to offer. We are also at the disadvantage that a lot of what Maidenbauer does is corporate events and galas and big dollar fundraiser events.
Which are catered then.
Which are catered from here. But when they do a business trade show where they do events with 3,000 people in the building, But those are events where they've sent you your badge in the mail. They don't have to deal with ticketing. They just come in, they do the trade show, they come in, they hear some keynote, they do their thing, and then they go off and do their $200 martini dinner at El Gaucho or at John Howie's Steakhouse. That's not us.
Yeah.
We had an Applebee's across the street, we'd be golden, because that's the type of market. Well, okay, maybe not Applebee's for those that are cringing, but that's
Right.
that's the type of family-friendly
Okay.
type place that our audience caters to, would prefer. Now, there are some of those at Bellevue Square, but it's a 7-block walk. Good to get in your steps, but you're kind of dodging some construction in places as you get there. But it is there, it's just a little further away. So yes, we totally understand.
Totally.
We are already in discussions on how to at least get some better options here next year. I have one proposal that I've already been pushing to Maidenbauer. Catering, actually, I just heard this morning that catering's come up with their own idea of how to help out. It may not be a menu like a Red Robin or an Applebee's or I need to find a local name to replace those with, but well, Dick's is a little different from, that's yet a different category, but for those of when we were in Seattle Center, Dick's was like 2 blocks away. Dick's is the Seattle local hamburger joint. It's like the In-N-Out for Seattle. Only, it's hard to say which one's, In-N-Out may actually still be better. But you're, people saying, no, I like Dick's better. But everybody has their, everybody has their favorite. So I grew up in Portland. For me, it was Burgerville. And those that have been to Burgerville's a lot bigger than In-N-Out. I do enjoy an In-N-Out when I'm down in LA, but I won't fight it out because the lines are way too damn long. But yeah, they have good stuff for the price. Dick's is kind of one of those. We don't have one of those close by. You have to go over to into Bellred Road to get to the closest Dick's.
But it's good to hear then that there's.
Yes, we are totally in agreement with
Okay,
you. That
very
is
good.
our biggest shortcoming that we have at this location is the food options.
All right.
It's like go ramble. All right, yep. Well, let me double check to see if we got the technical difficulties and see if there's any virtual questions. All right.
Food, that's why I was going to kind of dovetail to that question. Because I had an incident on Friday. And I will admit, or confess, whatever, declare, I'm diabetic. I take insulin before every meal. So I prepared for Friday's 2 o'clock panel. I took my insulin at the hotel, came down to get my food and go up to my panel, and they were shutting down. They wouldn't service me. Even though she was packing up, she could have, nope, wouldn't even service me. I had no choice. I ordered a pizza, it delivered. I took the pizza up here and went to my panel with the pizza. I know I didn't care about outside food at this point because they shut down.
Yep.
So looking forward, unless that policy has some more expansion of exceptions, there's got to be food options while we are here.
And that's a good point. And so when I set up the schedule with Maidenbauer on, because we dictated when the latte cart could be there or not to be there. I wasn't sure how popular it was going to be, and I didn't want to drag them out if nobody was going to be at the latte cart when it was just us in the building, right? Because it's not cost effective, and the way it works, we could end up on the dime to pay for a salary of somebody if there's no sales. Now we didn't necessarily have a minimum order arrangement, but I didn't want to get into that discussion. And so I limited it to 9 to 1.
Right, and I think the one was what threw me off. I was expecting at least 2.
Yeah,
so-
and then, well,
Yeah.
on top of that, we forgot to publicize that to you guys that there's limitations on when the latte cart's open. So we were so focused on all the changes to try to get in here, we forgot about some of the details and communicating those changes to you guys. So, yeah, I apologize that you had to do, now, in your particular case, being diabetic, and we know that there's a number of people that are, nobody's going to say anything when you say, I'm diabetic, I have to have this, and you didn't give me an option. Nobody's going to say anything.
Right.
They're going to just let you go. So don't, and again, those are hard things to communicate, to say, yeah, if you're diabetic, just eat whatever you need to eat. No, you just need to do that and let us worry about whether there's ramifications of it. So You did exactly what you needed to do. We're totally fine with that. I don't think anybody's ever going to even question it.
Okay.
All right, we're still nothing there? Yep, next up.
First and foremost, Steak and Shake is the superior of the places.
It's the East Coaster in the room.
But more relevant, getting back to the BrickCon Foundation, in doing something like that, moving to the charitable status, wanting to kind of reach out to the kids doing the robotics and kind of being more centered on promoting Lego art and those kinds of things, is there any effort to move beyond 4 days in September and do things potentially at another time of the year, even if it's not a convention, but something that just is organized by BrickCon?
So answer is yes. Now, what I'm saying is proposed because we have not set anything in stone yet. The first thing that we actually will be doing is working with CLUG to take over the interface between CLUG and Emerald City Comic Con. And so it will be my vision, and again, this is literally proposal, nothing set in stone. If you get to Emerald City Comic Con, it's different. Don't come back to me and yell or anything like that. Is that Brick Nation, which is back before Repop owned Emerald City Comic Con, we worked with the organizers and created this Brick Nation entity within Emerald City Comic Con. And that Brick Nation was to host us as Lego builders to present to the public to help draw people in and give them something alternate to see than just a bunch of booths in the expo hall. And when Repop took over, they keep forgetting that they even own this entity called Brick Nation. And what I envision that this could end up being at some point is Brick Nation presented by BrickCon, organized by CLUG. And so we guarantee that CLUG and the local lugs have access to the space, have the tables they need, the indemnification as needed to make sure that they can exist. And then CLUG does the organizing, the planning, set stuff up. So that's the first thing right off the bat that we are already working towards. CLUG is not a recognized entity. They have no legal status. Anybody who has to sign a contract with Emerald City has to do it by themselves. And that's not what we want. We want BrickCon to be that entity, or BrickCon Foundation to be that entity. So that's the first thing right off the bat. In terms of expanding BrickCon itself, that's something that we've hinted at off and on, and there's a bunch of, regardless if it's the BrickCon Foundation or BrickCon LLC, this is something we've actually gone back and forth a lot. And with the builders changing, there could be different pushes and drives from our builders. Initially, if you were to go back to 2019, let's say pre-COVID, the builders' preferred convention would be 5 days long, huge showroom, a bunch of vendors, and zero public. Every builder would have like, I'm in heaven, right? But the public is what pays for the event. Nowadays, we have these influencers that are building, and they probably love a con that's 5 days long with 3 days open to the public. Now, there is a lot of hassle in adding extra time. We're in the school year. A Friday event would probably have a minimal draw. We'd have a lot of the homeschoolers, but you wouldn't get any of the day-to-day kids. And doing it in the evening kind of cuts into a lot of people's want to do something else in the evening. So there's a lot of pros and cons to that. We will probably continue to have discussions. The immediate future, there's no plans to implement anything other than what we've done this year. But it's an ongoing, continuous discussion year to year to year. So, good question. Ideas of having BrickCons in other locations? Who knows what the opportunities may bring? All right, we got a virtual, so let's go ahead and let them break in, and then we'll come back to you.
Okay, question for the virtual mock award winners. Will you at some point have an award that they could build at home? Or is it possible to get a printed brick sent to award winners as part of winning a virtual award?
That's actually a good question, because we've limited the virtual award winners to just, I don't even know what we're doing this year. I don't know if I have a good answer for that, for what we're doing this year. But that's actually a good thing for us to really consider, making sure we treat them correctly. And yeah, I can see engraved bricks being sent. It'd take us a little while this year, because I don't think we prepped it this year. But yeah, make sure whoever said that, make sure that because they should have access to the survey. I think Lauren made sure all that already. When they fill out the survey, make sure that they add that into the comments section, so we don't drop the ball on that. That's a really good point, that part of BrickCon, and our goal for BrickCon is to make BrickCon feel like BrickCon, whether you're in person or virtual, and that's a piece that we may be falling down on. All right, go ahead.
So kind of going back to your last subject, for a third day option, have you thought of maybe putting it out there to schools saying, hey, come bring your field trips here?
So field trips on the first week of school is really difficult.
Yeah, very true.
And so that's what I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I think it would be a great idea.
You'd have to,
I think
you'd
we're
have
at the
to
wrong
market
time
it
of the
to
year.
them. So
Because like North Shore, Friday would have been day 2 of school. Now, we know that there are some schools that start the week or 2 weeks before Labor Day. And so, yeah, they're pretty well established in a routine. But Seattle has a lot of school districts that aren't in sync at all with each other. And yeah, if it's day 2 of school and they suddenly on a field trip, they don't even have enough time to get the waivers signed. So I don't see that. I think there's a ton of challenges in trying to make that work. I like the idea of a dedicated time for just kids, that we then tailor some direct sessions on artwork and engineering principles and physics of Lego models that could be really great to talk about. And maybe that is something that we don't do at BrickCon, but we do at some point later in the year.
secondly, so when we were at the other facility, we had the Cornish as a quiet area. We so need that here.
I actually kind of disagree, because there's a ton of people up here on the 4th floor balconies just chilling on the chairs, and it's actually quite quiet up here.
It's not.
Well, and that may depend on how many people are in the atrium. Next year, we actually will have all these rooms, all 9 rooms. And there will be, the room that we had yesterday after the first Lego will be available to us all weekend. It will be set up with round tables. It will not be overly burdened, because we'll have more rooms that we can schedule stuff. It'll still have things like the draft and the team speed builds and the dirty bricks, because the round table type room is designed for that. But when it's not doing that, it will be a space. The other piece that we have is, and nobody's really taken advantage of it, we have a whole terrace that happens to overlook the south side of Bellevue.
But the vampires don't like the sun.
They actually have umbrellas. They actually put out umbrellas for the shade. But yes, there are, I understand the whole vampire bit. All right, so this side of the room's been a little quiet. Do you guys have anything, or just not want to walk over to the microphone, or chilling, and it happens to be a quiet room? All right, we got another one for virtual. Oh, she's offering to walk mics over to that side of the room. Go ahead, Steve.
What about a 4 o'clock entry for the public? Being sold out, I'm sure we could have filled it.
4 o'clock entry. Nicole just suddenly went, no! 4 o'clock entries have their own challenges for us, more so than the public. The public would, yes, we could probably have that as a possibility and sell it. Not a bad idea for us to contemplate more. We worry about the builders that actually like to be able to promote and talk about their mocks and show it off, and dinner hour, because that'd be a 4 to 6 with the final clearing by 6:30. On Friday, keynotes are at 7. On Saturday, awards are at 7:30. There's no dinner break, and we have to keep you guys happy with the ability to breathe and do what you need to do and make sure you're fed and energized and all that fun stuff. And I don't want to necessarily start Saturday's award ceremony at 8 or 8:30, because now that we have the ability to have dark side, I don't want to kill dark side. Dark side last night was awesome. I want to continue to do that every year. And so, and Saturday night is the best night for that. Yeah, it'd be really cool to do that in friends and family. I'm a little selfish. That's us. I want to keep that for us. And so our Saturday schedule is probably set to make it difficult. Now, it doesn't mean we can't continue to think on it and see if there's an issue, a way to make that work. But it's a difficult challenge for us to figure out how to implement. The other part of that is I don't know if we need the funds that would bring in. Yes, it'd be really nice to have a lot more income that would bring in. I don't know if we need it. Now, Dan's back there going, what, you're turning away money? And I'm going, we don't really need it. Why go through, is it worth it to us to implement it? And yeah, I'm getting the head shakes in the back of the room saying, no, it's not worth it to us to implement it. Because it is a lot of work. Every ticketed entry is actually a lot of work. And it's not necessarily day of, it's the prep work before even getting here. Sunday is definitely not an option for a 4 o'clock entry. Everybody wants to get home at that point. They're tired, they're burnt out. Delaying it by an extra 2 hours, people would just be taking their mocks and leaving in the middle of public, and that's not going to work either. So we can think on it. Probably won't think on it a lot, but we can think on it. If you can come up to the mic. I know you're all the way at the back, and I'm making you walk to the front. There you go. All right.
I just wanted to follow up on a comment for extending on Sunday. I'm from Southern California, and I'm already taking a 9 o'clock flight out tonight. So that would be difficult. Yeah.
The remote travels. We already know that there's a number of people remote that have to leave at 2 or 3 in the afternoon to catch their flights because they don't have a flight that's perfect for them. Good point. And I know Sunday would be the least day we'd even consider it. As Dan said, we don't want to burn people out.
On the topic of it being a lot of work for another ticketing session and BrickCon Foundation doing more and more and things like that, how's staffing going?
We'll touch a little bit on that during closing ceremonies. We actually have, compared to other cons, we have a really large staff already. And part of that is that keeps us from getting burned out because we have a lot of people doing a little bit of work that spreads stuff around. We do have some openings that we'll be talking about at closing. And we're still working, we still haven't ironed out our structure as an organization. So there's some stuff that I just don't have a good way to say the answer as how our staffing is until we actually finish putting together the organizational structure to see what holes we have. So stay tuned to our private socials, potentially CLUG, that type of thing. We may post some needs in the future that to fill different things as they come up. So we do try to work mainly with CLUG because we do like a lot of the locals, but if it's on the virtual side, for those that don't know, our virtual team is actually scattered around both the U.S. and the world. Mark Choa is in the Philippines. Justin, I forget Justin's last name off the top. He's in the Dakotas. Jason, if I remember right, and I'm sure Lauren's going, no, it's this person. He's in Florida. Lauren, who's currently our lead for the virtual, he's down in Las Vegas. So our virtual isn't even local. Our virtual team's actually scattered. And that's actually how I want it. I'm looking for somebody in Europe. I would love to have somebody in Europe join our virtual team because, again, my vision of virtual is a con that starts, like this year, it would start 2 p.m. on Thursday and it end at 5:30 on Sunday. And it doesn't stop. But because there's stuff, either we're replaying sessions or we get some new session overnight that's being presented in Europe or in Asia or something like that. And it's this virtual convention. So those that aren't interested in the social activities going on at the hotel but still aren't ready to go to bed could hop on the virtual in their hotel room and participate at some late night virtual activity, or late night here. It could be midday in Europe. I think I just got a few more minutes. Is there any other questions? Go ahead, Steve.
This is the main question I was even here for. So,
Okay.
and you may not have an answer. If not, I'm fine getting it at closing ceremonies.
Okay.
So we're in this big space. You walk in this very much bigger room, and then of course I see more vendors. Vendors are spread out. Got to be loving that. You even had a space in the corner for signatures for the Lego Masters. Battle Bricks is even larger. And then I start feeling like, because of all that, am I really seeing more mock space? And I really not sure. In my mind, I want to feel like, well, these center tables feel about the same as they were in Seattle, maybe a little bit more around the edges. So do you have a defined percentage increase in table space for mocks here versus there? And if you, like I say, if you don't have it, closing ceremonies would be fine. But I'd just love to know how much bigger, not number of mocks wise, that's not really, I don't think that's the right metric, but actual table space.
So I can answer that right now. We are within 3 tables of what we had at the exhibition hall. So it's the exact same mock space. What we have is a lot more aisle space, so it's less crowded. And that's, right now, that's what we needed. That's what we were outgrowing at the exhibition hall. Now, in terms of getting public through the door, we're actually at the same cap. But it's less crowded. And we actually have, in some ways, we actually have a bunch of wasted space. So I feel like I could hold the Seattle Exhibition Center fantasy display inside the pit that currently Fantasy surrounds. And that's all actual unused space. So we have some optimizations to do as we get to the point where we start running out of tables. We aren't running out of tables at the moment. If you notice, we have a lot of stuff spread out to make it look busy and when it's not really actually all that busy. So we have lots of mock growth room at the moment. And part of that's just everybody seeing what the site had to offer and how that works. But as we start getting to the point where we're running out of table space, we need to work on optimization of our existing space so we can increase the table space, increase the mock space, without having to need more floor plan space. And we have that because of the area inside what I call the pits. They're huge. So yes, your observation was exactly correct. It is the exact amount of same space. Vendor count actually didn't go up much, but instead of, they were literally in 8x7 spots, 8 foot by 7. They're now in 10x10 spots. So they got an actual convention space allocation finally here. We could not offer them at the exhibition hall. Now, sadly, Battle Bricks will not be back next year. It may be back in a couple of years, but it won't be back next year. Wolfong, who drives Battle Bricks, is the sole person driving Battle Bricks. He just had a family expansion, and he's now needs to take a year off to recoup and be with his family. So we will have a hiatus for that. That'll give us some space to do something else there, and maybe we queue lines for Lego Masters there. Lego Masters was an experiment this year that was actually initiated by Lego, not by, we asked for it, but Lego actually is backing that. They gave us the swag, or Lego and Fox gave us the swag that's being handed out to the public. That's all new. We are the first con to get that, and they're looking to see how it worked for us to see how they roll out others. We have no clue if it'll be back next year. If it's not, we have expansion there for something else. So I think I'm basically out of time. I'd like to thank everyone, both virtually and in the room, who attended. And hopefully the rest of your con goes really well. Thanks.